Alright, welcome back to week 2 of Theater Appreciation, the online version. Yay! Anyway, before we start on the new stuff, which is plays and playwriting, I wanted to go back and pick up something that I should have done last week, but I didn't want to tag it onto an already long video. So yeah, if you're following along with the slideshow, this would be basically slide 3, which is a term, right? It is a term that originates from ancient Greece that I'll explain in a second, but the term is Deus ex Machina, not Deus ex Machina. Deus ex Machina. It's Latin. It refers to this convention that they used to have in Greek and Roman theater, where in Greek tragedy, right, at the end of the play, in a lot of those plays, God would show up and fix everything, right? So the Deus ex Machina is like they'd have this giant wooden crane, right? And an actor playing a god would get into the basket of the crane, and then they would crank it, and the crane would lower God from heaven to, or Mount Olympus, to wave his magic god hand and solve all the problems of the play at the end. So yeah, God shows up at the end and just fixes everything. So the Romans, Latin, created that term because they used it too, but it originates from this piece of machinery, the wooden crane that they used in Greek theater to lower God to the stage, right? That term, however, Deus ex Machina, still exists and is still used in reference to screenwriting, playwriting, storytelling in general. The Latin term literally means God of or from the machine. So, you know, God comes from the machine. Yeah. These days, instead of, you know, the giant wooden crane thing, a Deus ex Machina is, if you look at the slide, a plot device whereby a seemingly unsolvable problem is suddenly and abruptly solved with the contrived and unexpected intervention of some new event, character, ability, or object. So, in other words, something that's just barely set up, if at all, shows up at the end of the story and solves all the problems. The main characters do not sort their own troubles out. God shows up at the end and fixes everything. When it's well done, you don't even realize that it's happening, but it's done a lot, and usually it's not well done. And yeah, these days it's frequently seen as signs of weak storytelling. So the term Deus ex Machina is thrown around a lot, the Deus ex Machina that fixes everything at the end. So let me give you a couple of examples of this in, say, some movies that you probably have seen, to show you this practice put into play. Alright, so let's start with Jurassic Park, right? Most of you have seen Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park movie. Even if you haven't, like, you probably have seen the trailer, which will give you enough context for this. So in Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg directed this, and learning a lesson that he learned a long time ago from the movie Jaws, which is to not show the shark, right? Show it as little as possible, and it builds up suspense, and yeah, that's why Jaws works. In Jurassic Park, right, everybody's sitting there in the movie theater waiting for the T-Rex to show up on screen, right? It's the dinosaur everybody knows, T-Rex, right? So, yeah, early on, they're in the motorized cars, they go past the T-Rex paddock, and T-Rex doesn't show up, right? Everybody's sitting there in the movie and in the audience waiting for the T-Rex to show up, and so they try to coax the T-Rex to come out by raising a little goat on a platform, but nope, T-Rex not interested. Later on, like 10, 15 minutes later, there's a giant storm and the electric cars stall right outside the T-Rex paddock in this massive storm, powers out, cars aren't moving, and, you know, one of the kids in one of the cars is like, where's the goat? Because the goat's gone, right? And then you hear the T-Rex long before you see it. Because the T-Rex is such a big animal, right? Big, massive creature. Yeah, to build up suspense, you hear the T-Rex long before you ever see it. And every time it steps, you hear boom, right? And because it's raining, there's rain puddles all over the ground, and the puddles shake every time the thing steps. You hear boom, and the water shakes, right? And then boom, boom, and it gets louder and closer, and then silence, and then they look up, and there's the T-Rex, right? Okay, flash forward to the end of that movie, right? So our heroes, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and two little kids who would have been way more entertaining had they been eaten halfway through, are on the run in the middle of the visitor center of Jurassic Park, and they're running from velociraptors, like the 7-foot tall, super smart raptors, right? They're in the lobby of the visitor center of Jurassic Park. They're being chased by a pack of raptors, and the raptors, pack hunters, have surrounded them on all sides. And there's no way out for our main characters. No escape. They are not going to get out on their own. They've tried. Now they're trapped, and the raptors are closing in. And then one of them, the lead raptor, leaps with its claws extended out in the air, and then, right before it lands and attacks them, a giant T-Rex swoops down, grabs the thing in midair, crunches it. There's a big swell of, John Williams music, and our main characters run out the front door. How did that T-Rex get inside the building? I'll wait. Even if on the internet there are some people who are like, well, actually, they're loading to it. Yeah, how did that T-Rex get inside the building, and why didn't they hear it coming? Because earlier in the movie, it is very clearly established. Every time it walks, boom, boom, boom. Was it like, hiding behind a little column with its little tiny arms, waiting for just the right moment to snag the raptor out of the sky? Yeah, it doesn't make sense logically, but Jurassic Park is a really well-made movie, and you get swept up in it and don't think about the fact that the main characters don't get themselves out of their own big problem. This magical intervention from a T-Rex that somehow can get inside a building, even though it's like, 2 stories tall, and walks really loud footsteps, super stealth ninjas, the raptor, until just at the right moment. That's a Deus Ex Machina, right? Let me give you another example. In the movie Superman, the original Superman movie, Lex Luthor fires 2 nuclear weapons in opposite directions at the end of the movie, and Superman only has time to stop one of them, and he's promised this woman that he'll stop one, but doesn't get to go after the other, and the other one goes off at the San Andreas Fault and explodes, and it causes massive earthquakes, and Lois Lane is trapped in the earthquake in a car, and she dies, and Superman gets there, but it is too late. Lois is dead. Superman, played by Christopher Reeve, brilliantly looks up, does a kind of shout, and then jumps up and flies off into the air super fast. Lois is dead. What's he going to do? How are we going to, how is Superman going to save the girl and defeat Lex Luthor? Well, suddenly Superman starts flying around planet Earth real fast, so fast that it reverses the planet and causes time to roll back, which enables him to be able to stop both nuclear weapons because he reversed time because he was flying around the Earth so fast, the Earth went backwards. Okay, why doesn't Superman do that for every crime? Why does any crime ever happen? Why doesn't Superman just reverse time and fix everything? Because he clearly can do that. I mean, his ability to, reverse time by flying really fast is not set up at all, right? But it happens, so yeah, why does any crime ever happen ever? Because Superman can just reverse time and fix it. That is a Deus Ex Machina. Here, I'll probably hit everybody at once. The Wizard of Oz, right? That trippy, nightmarish kids movie that, God, those flying monkeys were scary. Anyway, The Wizard of Oz. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy hitches a ride to Oz via Twister in her Aunt Em's house, and the house drops and lands in Oz from Kansas, right? When the house lands in Oz, it unfortunately lands on the Wicked Witch of the East, yes, the East, and crushes her. All you can see that's left of her is her feet hanging out from under the house with the ruby slippers on them. The witch shows up, but the ruby slippers transfer magically over to Dorothy, and the witch promises that she's going to get her and her little dog too. So, Dorothy wants to get back to Kansas. That's what Dorothy wants. So she, Toto, Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion, they all sing and dance and go on a magical journey to the Wizard of Oz. And the wizard, this big booming face, tells her, yes, I totally have the power to send you back because I'm Oz the Great and Terrible and All-Powerful, but you have to do something for me first. So the wizard sends Dorothy, 16-year-old little Dorothy, on a suicide mission to kill the witch and get her broom. And then, if she brings the broom back and kills the witch, then Dorothy gets to go back home to Kansas, the wizard says. Magically, Dorothy accidentally does it by pouring a bunch of water on the Wicked Witch, and she melts, and oh, what a world, right? So, Dorothy, despite all the ridiculous odds against it, kills the witch, gets the broomstick back, and then the Wizard of Oz is revealed to not be a big, booming, loud face voice thing. It's instead a con man, right? He's a con man. And tells the other characters, oh, they had the stuff they really wanted in them the whole time. But Dorothy wants to go back to Kansas. And even though he's a con man, he can help her out because he has a hot air balloon that he's going to get in and leave and go back to, I guess, the real world. Probably a good thing because he's been conning the citizens of Oz that he was a wizard for a long time now. Anyway, so he's going to take Dorothy back to Kansas via hot air balloon. And Dorothy is saying goodbye to everybody, and then the wizard leaves in the hot air balloon. He takes off without her, and Dorothy is stuck. There is no going home to Kansas now, and that is all Dorothy wanted to do. So, oh my god, how are we going to get Dorothy back home? That is when Glinda the Good Witch reveals to Dorothy, oh, Dorothy, you're wearing the ruby slippers. You could have gone home at any time. You could just click your heels 3 times and say, there's no place like home. Which would have been really good information to give her, like, you know, a couple hours earlier before allowing the wizard to send her on a suicide mission to kill the witch, which, by the way, Glinda was the one who told Dorothy to go see the wizard in the first place. Why didn't Glinda just tell Dorothy, hey, click your heels 3 times and, you know, say there's no place like home? Right? But the magical ruby slippers that send Dorothy back at the end, that's a Deus Ex Machina. With these 3 examples, like, those movies are good. You know, there's no complaint. Now, when you think about the endings, they don't really work, and the characters don't really solve their own problems, but the movies are well done, and the stories just sweep you along, and you don't even think about the Deus Ex Machina that clanks along at the end that solves everything. Most things are not that good, right? And yeah, when you start to watch movies, TV shows, you're going to start to notice this creep up all the time. So basically what I'm saying is, I just ruined movies for you. I'm sorry. Demand better entertainment. Anyway, I want you to know that term, Deus Ex Machina, because it's going to crop up throughout the semester, and it's a worthwhile one to know because it is still used all the time. It's still made reference to, certainly in terms of storytelling and playwriting, which is what we're about to start talking about. Yeah, it is a worthwhile term to know. Deus Ex Machina.